Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my Dark Knights. Welcome back to another tier list. Here I'm going to be doing on the channel. Wanted offshoot video, something a little different, and I want to do more Yu-Gi-Oh content this year. I thought about it a lot, and I want to go more full bore into doing just Yu-Gi-Oh! We're still going to do streams, but of different games, but my content is going to be mostly Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon related. And I wanted to try this off at doing a discussion for Yu-Gi-Oh! The meta, basically, right now. Going into 2024, and really discuss this. And I'm also going to do one with Edison as well. Edison being my favorite format, way more popular than the current meta has been, because those is more up my alley. And the decks there are, you don't have to do with a lot of hand traps in that, and a lot of floodgates. You really don't deal with too many floodgates, but thank God the ban list came through and eliminated them. Most of them anyway. But we're going to go through. We have a ton here. Not as much as I'd like to see. We are missing a few, I would say. But we're going to go into basically running through some of these. We will probably go through each one, and we may do a rogue tier list in the future as well. But yeah, because there is some I really do want to cover. But yeah, we're going to just jump right into this. Okay, I found a tier list that has a little more options, so we're going to go with this. First things first, we have Revolution Synchron, just Synchron good stuff. Or that would really concern with, like, really throwing the Bestials in there with that. That pile. I would say it's at least tier 1.5, just because Bestials are still a thing. You can kind of mix that with Horus. Depending on what build this is that use Revolution Synchron, it's just a build of Bestial, just a mix of that. Altergeist, they're still not good enough even with the new support that they've had, to be completely honest with you. Branded, now I say Branded is still tier 1, especially now with the Bestials going around now, not really being touched other than Magnamut, who's still at 1, and it just topping the YCS that we just had. I think Branded is going to go more into a Bestial deck, more so, and heavy on the Bestials more than just the Branded side of things. But I really do think that Branded is going to be a problem in the meta, especially because you can still gimmick puppet lock them. You can still do other locks that is very toxic to deal with. So Branded is still a deck, but I still say it is tier 1. Or, actually, no. We'll move it right on the top of tier 1.5, because I think there are some decks that are better than it. Centurion, you're just really relying on... You're really just Calamity Turboing. And that's really all you're doing in this deck. Legatia, a lot of the other stuff, they're really not doing too much in the deck. They haven't seen a lot of tops recently. I say they're at least tier 2 or tier 3 right now until we see the deck actually performing. It's experimental. If you can get it together with, like, say, a Horus package or something like that, I think that would work really well. A friend of mine who is a judge, D-Hypno, he is actually playing this with a Horus package. And I think that, if you're going off of that, is at least tier 2. But, like, when I played him with my Runic Stun deck, you can just, if you don't see a Horus, like, he just saw his Horus cards. He didn't see any of his other stuff. Chimera, for me, branded Chimera is still tier 2. Branded or Chimera is probably the best build. Chimera Runic is pretty good. But really, for me, once the Phantom Nightmare comes out, I'm going into straight Goaty. I may just do Goaty Runic for a little bit. I'm still up in the air about that, but or just give Sharks a try because they're getting a new spell as well. Dark World, we're in a Droll format. Dark World just loses to Droll, and you end their turns. And if they have Droll, you're, as a Dark World player, you are very, very sad. Now, they can still hand loop. They can still do amazing plays. They have an amazing setup turn 1 if you play it correctly. But I think Dark Worlds has been going down recently, especially with Droll being in the format. Dinos. Dinos, they really didn't lose anything in the ban list. They really didn't get anything either. Misk, I mean, they got Pankit 2. But still not getting Misk back is a concern. So I really do feel like they are still tier 2. They're still tier 2. You can, on a local level, steal tournaments with this. I go to locals where Dinos top every week or so. It's just bonkers how this deck still seems to top. Dragon Link is next. Dragon Link losing Chaos Space. Losing it at 1. And, like, I mean, it's still doable. It's still a playable deck. I still think they're at least tier 2 as well. You've seen more builds with Dragon Link with the Bestials and the Orcus cards now available. So really, you're still seeing that as a pile build going forward. But Dragon Link is still a deck you do need to pay attention to because it's still a problem. Drytron. I think Drytron is tier 2. I think you can come in and, well, not tier 2 per se. I would think it's more tier 3. You can go through a whole line of Drytron. The only thing they lose to is Droll. And that's why they're near, probably I'd put them right next to Dark World, just because the Droll format, you lose to Droll. But if they don't have Droll, you can go through and just set up Herald of Ultimateness, Herald of Perfection, get an amazing board just out. And it takes 2 or 3 interruptions to stop a Drytron player from going full combo. And it's always a problem to go against them. Exo Sister. We're not really... I still think Exo Sister is at least tier 3 as well. I think it's right on the cusp. There's not a lot of decks that are using the graveyard right now, except for Fire Kings. And, actually, once we go through and the Fire Kings and the Fire decks start going through, we're going to see Exo Sister probably pop up more. So I could see Exo Sister going up, for sure. Just because if this is going off the January, after the January 2024 ban list and moving into the new format, I think that Exo Sister is going to be a deck that people need to be ready for, especially if you are playing a Rescue Ace, Fire King, stuff that really relies on the graveyard. But right now, there isn't a lot of decks that really rely on the graveyard right now. I mean, there is some that, you know, if they move stuff from the graveyard, different stuff like that. So I think right now, Exosister, tier 2. Now, Flowanderies, these stupid freaking birds. These things are a problem. It's a deck that can play Shifter. Shifter's a problem. Shifter did not get hit on the ban list. Shifter is always going to be an issue. That's fine. And that's what makes this deck really good, is because if you don't stop them from Robina, or they are just going to go on a line and you are going to just hate your day because M-Pen's a douche. Trust me, I know. I've played against Flu enough to know M-Pen's a douche. So, yeah, they're still guaranteed. They definitely are still 1.5. Now, Punk, on the other hand, if we're talking about Punk Gold Pride, there hasn't been a lot of numbers of that. I think that is more of a rogue strategy, but I don't want to really discount how good that the Punks can be, especially mixed in with other strategies, just because how consistent the Punks are. So, yeah, I really feel like that they're definitely... I could put them in Tier 3. I could see them being in a Tier 3. A Gold Pride Punk deck could roll through a local. So, like, Tier 3, I think, like, you could win a locals with this. You could potentially top locals with this lineup here. This you could win, like, a regional with. And, like, this is, like, YCS top level. Just unstoppable. Heroes. Heroes are Tier 3 as well. Anything that you can bring out Dark Law. And heroes always get support. So, yeah, heroes are always... I mean, and they get new cards, I believe, in Maze of Millennia. And you also get... the Yugioh stuff. So the Yugioh stuff is going to come in too after Phantom Nightmare, so that'll up it. Now, Infernoble is sold. Getting hit is bad for them. And now, I mean, are they still playable? I think they're rogue, but they are not deserving of these top 3 spots anymore. They don't feel that way. Kashtira is back to tier 1.5. The reason being is because they got Pank, they got Unicorn back at 3. That is indeed a problem, and granted, they don't have a Rise Heart, and it's going to be more of a control deck, but Kashtira monsters, you can just control the game with Fenrir, and Fenrir is a card that did not get touched. It's gonna be a problem, especially with that. Unicorn, most people don't expect Ogre from time to time. But yeah, they do not expect that. But the top deck to me is Labyrinth. After they get Transaction Rollback, guys, this is going to be a Labyrinth format, because Transaction Rollback is going to be an actual problem to any decks that play trap cards. And copy normal traps. Labyrinth can copy any normal trap that your opponent uses. You can copy an Imperm. You can copy a Floodgate if you're playing Runic. You can basically copy any of your opponent's traps that are in their graveyard, and then you can banish it and copy one of yours. So it's... Once that card comes out, and the other trap card as well that they're getting, Labyrinth is going to be a dominant deck. It's going to be so good. I'm terrified of Labyrinth. And I used to own the deck. Mana Dome is definitely tier 1 as well. Anything that you can bring out a board that Mana Dome does, that granted, it loses the roll. But if you do not get hit by a droll-heavy format, Mana Dome, which that's why they play Cross out in the main, just specifically for droll. If Mana Dome goes through their lines and sets up Dispotter, the Calamity, sometimes they're kind of shying away from the Calamity right now, but that, an SP Little Knight, and a Baronet de Fleur, good freaking luck. Good freaking luck, dude. Marincess is next. Marincess is, I feel like it's tier 3. I could see people surprising in a local format, but I don't see it doing anything more than a local top. Mathmech is as good as dead. Mathmech, I mean, you lose Circular. How can you play the game without your number 1 card? I really feel like the deck is dead. Makonko. I think Makonko is rogue as well. You could steal some games with Makonko. I think like maybe this is borderline. It could almost be on the top of almost getting into tier 3, but I did Makonko lately hasn't done a whole lot, but I mean anything where you don't have to rely on your well, them losing a soul didn't hurt them too bad, but it hurt their plays that they would typically go into. Naturia. Naturia builds, at this point, you haven't seen too many Naturia builds because Sacred Tree is at 1. So I would say it is Rogue as well. I don't see too much of that going around. Pendulum is right there as well. I haven't seen a lot of Pendulums decks. We'll put that in Rogue. You still got to look out for Pendulum. There is some new Pendulum cards that did get released in Agov that really pushes the deck over. The Arc Ray Magician, the new Zark, it's a decent card. It is a very funny card. I will say that. I've gotten the face down the barrel of that thing, and it is not fun. Phantom Knights. This thing can definitely top a local anytime. I think this is more for a pile. So I think like what you're going to see in Phantom Knights is you're going to see it with Horus. You're going to see it with Bestial. So you're probably going to see a deck that's like Phantom Knights, Bestial, Horus. So like those 3 together would probably be really good. I would definitely see that. The more of those builds going around. It's close to tier 2. I think it is close to tier 2, especially since how it... I think it just, in the YCS, it was in top 32, I believe. So it is still I mean, it's got several engines to push it, but I don't think that right now in the meta it's going to be good against the top decks. Plunder Patrol, it is rogue. Really haven't seen too much of it going around lately. And I think against the rest of the meta, it is not going to be able to match up against these top decks like Pearly. This is Pearly's last hurrah. This is Pearly's last hurrah because once those Goblin Riders come out, Pearly will be no more. Because Goblin Riders are the literal counter to Pearly. And these Pearly players, yes, you'll still be able to play. I think you'll drop down a tier. I think you'll drop down to like tier 2, tier 3. But you get massed up to Goblin Riders, you're going to lose automatically. So just have fun with that. And then, of course, Rescue Ace is still the #1 deck alongside Labyrinth before they get transaction rollback, just because of they only got Airlifter limited. That's it. Airlifter was still a card that, yes, it's good, but Preventer is still there. And Hydrant, okay, you just throw in a 3rd Hydrant. Whoop-de-doo. Or you just throw in more of the DFL Star package. That's fine. They do not care. These, as long as Turbulence is there, that set 4 pass. I was in a 3v3 last week, and because of Hita, taking my Volcanic Emperor, because I was doing Volcanic Runic Stun, I just lost. Because taking it alongside a set 4 Pass Turbulence with an SP Little Knight, it was just too much for even Runic Stun to recover from. But right next is Red Dragon Archfiend Resonator, just the Resonator builds, Bestial Resonator, stuff like that. I think it's tier 2. I think it's definitely tier 2. I mean, we did see some Bestial Resonator. You can actually do some funny stuff with the Resonators and the Bestial Horus package there that someone was playing. It was actually pretty cool to see. I did think that was pretty cool because it gives you options. You can resonate, you can synchro with the deck, you can fuse with the deck, you can link with the deck. And even Xyz, like, you have a lot of options in that deck, and that's good. Now this next one hurts me because I played this deck. I think it's dead. I mean, it's not completely dead. I think you could still go in, and I think it's like top of Rogue, at least in here, but it's not going to be able to top anything anymore. Not with 1 Dryas, 1 Healer. I mean, wait, because then once the new Royal Mages come out, maybe the deck changes a little bit, goes through a metamorphosis, and you can play different stuff in place of it. I would really hope to see that because I don't want to see my deck die. I loved Rika, Sun Avalon. It was one of my favorite decks I've ever gotten to play, and it was my first combo deck, really, too. So, and the combos were popping off. I was very happy to get combos going off. But sadly, for now, it's like in Rogue. So Runic Stun, or just Runic variants in general. I think Runic variants are like near the top of tier 2. I think Goaty Runic it literally just topped a regional. So I think like that is an interesting build in the OCG that they're starting to do too. There's different Runic decks as well, Runic Chimera, a whole bunch of just Runic builds running around, and Runic is a package. It was not hit. It's going to be a problem. Salad. Salad with the new support, I think, is top of tier 3, or right below at the bottom of tier 2, just because that Salad has a lot of recursion. It has a lot of bounce back. It can recover quite quickly as well, unless you Abyss Dweller them. If you Abyss Dweller them, I mean, a lot of those cards that are in that graveyard, they can't do too much. So, I mean, at that point then, you know, what are you going to do at that point for Salad? But it is the year of Fire, and I really think that they will have a little uppance a little bit and do a little more this year. Sky Striker. I think it's at the bottom of tier 2, top of tier 3, just because, yeah, they got 3 upstarts, but and I think Engage at 3, 2 or 3, but really, I mean, we had Engage at 3 for a while, and it hasn't done anything. Upstart at 3 in a draw format, it's not going to do much either. Snake Eye, pure Snake Eyes. Okay, so this is the deck that I enjoy running for my Fire build. I think the Snake Eye has a ton of potential. I think when Poppy comes out, I think we're going to have some one-card combos. Heck, the deck has an FTK once it goes through as well. I think it is deserving of the top of tier 2, possibly tier 1.5, but I think it's just right next to Branded Chimera for now. But once we get the other spells and stuff, this deck is just going to keep going up because the level 1 fire potential. So anytime you get a new fire, you can literally throw this in the deck and just play pure Snake Eye. And I mean, you can't Ash a lot of the cards that it gets by Ash, it gets by Droll, most of the stuff. I think the only thing is Ash. But if you get if you get trolled off of Ash, you don't give a care at that point, because at that point you're drawing Poppy, and then you're off to the races, because you don't really need it. And then when Promethean Princess comes out, this deck is just going to jump up to tier 1.5 for sure. Sprite variants, they did get Sprite started to 3 and a bunch of stuff like that. I still think that Sprite variants are still going to be a thing going around. You still need to pay attention to that. Sword Soul, I think it's the top of tier 3. Sword Soul, I think once you get, I would love to see in Legacy of Destruction, after Legacy of Destruction comes out, I want to see what happens with the Sword Souls, with the Bright Fleets, because those with the Bright Fleets, they're all worms, and you can literally play like a Sword Soul Bright Fleet deck, and it's just an OTK deck, and you could just OTK. I think like once that comes out, they'll probably play a Sword Soul engine in it. I think that would be a very interesting deck to play, honestly, because they're all worms. So, Tier is finally dead, ladies and gentlemen. Tier is finally dead. I'm so happy to see Tier dead. TGs, it's not good enough. I'm sorry, it's just not good enough. I don't think that it can do some gimmicky things. It can sell synchro, all this different stuff, but I don't think it's higher than Rogue. I really don't. Virtual World, same thing. I don't think Virtual World is going to... it did just top a regional, so if anything, I could see it like in like tier 3, but I don't think it's any higher than Rogue. Trap Tricks, same for Trap Tricks as well. Once Transaction Rollback comes out, maybe, because you can duplicate a whole trap in your graveyard by banishing it, and you can also duplicate one of your normal traps, which would also activate Sarah. So that would be good, but I think until that comes out, I think it is just right near the top. Unchained. I still think Unchained is worthy of tier 2 or tier 3. Yes, they lost Shavara, but you still have to pay close attention to this board, because yeah, they do only have one Shavara now, but Unchained is still a deck that it's still going to have its tops. It's still going to compete, and I think that tier 2 is perfect for it, along with possibly Vanquish Soul. But I think, if anything, I think Vanquish Soul is going to be the dark horse. I really do. It didn't get touched. The only thing it lost was one Tikaboo. And there is some builds that didn't even play Tikaboo. So, there may be some combos where you see Kashtira mixed in with the deck, and stuff like that, now that I got 3 Unicorn. I could see that build happen more often, but I still think Vanquish Soul is a problem. Vanquish Soul is definitely worthy of 1.5. If anything moves, I could see like probably the Runic builds up at 1.5, and like maybe Dragon Link, but I think Dragon Link is just like right there on the cusp. But the Runic builds, I still think the Runic builds are good, but I think Runic Stun is I mean, I don't think it's dead, but them getting hit on the stun boards are not great. So, this is our tier list here. If you guys have any suggestions or anything you think of that I may have missed, or any decks that I may have missed, let me know in the comments down below. I want to do a Rogue tier list as well to talk about, like, after those, what do I think that will be good. I think Sharks are going to be fantastic, and just different decks. But yeah, this is my tier list. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy, feel free, go ahead, hit that like button. I greatly appreciate it. And as always, stay awesome, my Dark Knights.